What's going on, Ambitious Vet? Welcome to episode number 58 of the Ambitious Vet Show with Coast Guard active duty member, radio talk show host of Transition Tactics, and two-time author, Travis Collier. Welcome to the Ambitious Vet, where we believe if you desire more, you have to become more. My name is Chris Hoffman, Marine combat veteran turned passion-driven entrepreneur. On this show, I dive into the trenches with today's top military veteran thought leaders and influencers who know what it takes to not only pay the bills after the military, but really make an impact. You're going to hear great stories, failures, and even golden grenades to empower you to execute on what matters most in your life right now. Over 65% of veterans leave their first career out of the uniform within 2 years due to the lack of challenge and being underemployed. Here's the thing, Ambitious Vet, a career is not your only option after transitioning from the military. In fact, I have found all ambitious vets are missing is a proven process or system to follow to succeed. What if you could get ahead of that statistic by utilizing the skills you already carry of leadership, teamwork, strong work ethic, and the ability to execute a plan and begin to feel that desire, freedom, and empowerment of being your own boss? The answer is franchise business opportunities. It's a great fit for an entrepreneurial veteran because of the resources like veteran discounts, marketing, sales support, and it also carries proven processes and support that provide greatly reduce the risk and improves the probability of success in business ownership. Sound pretty good? Well, the challenge is, being a veteran, we naturally resist the inherent risk of business ownership, considering our risk-averse, risk management mentality of operating in the military. How do we get past this barrier? Well, operating procedures and leverage experience narrows risk and narrows results. Sound good? Well, guys, here's the thing. Good news is Veteran Franchise Group has your back. As military veteran franchise brokers, they mentor and provide their veteran clients with the industry data, science-based entrepreneurial personal assessments for effective matchmaking, company data, and the resources needed from their portfolio of over 500 franchise opportunities to just empower you to choose and start the next chapter in your life as a franchise business owner. Through providing live events, webinars, industry conferences, and meetings throughout the country, Veteran Franchise Group will help veteran entrepreneurs create more jobs and a transferable culture for veterans to just drop into to accelerate their impact post-military. Now, if you're here listening to this podcast locally in San Diego, come join their next free live event. It's happening August 17th, 2019 on Saturday. I will post the link in the show notes below. And if you're not local, go and visit their website, veteranfranchisegroup.com. Again, that's veteranfranchisegroup.com.
Hey, this is Steven, host of Knucklehead Podcast, and you're listening to the Ambitious Vet Podcast with Chris Hoffman.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Ambitious Vet Show. I just want to first and foremost just thank you. Thank you for coming in and day out. It wasn't until I read the book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, when I realized how much consistency, even if it's not always effective action every single day, like the small habits like brushing your teeth, reading 30 pages of a book, all that doesn't seem like it's moving you forward. But the funny thing that I had to learn the hard way, getting out of the uniform and becoming more out of the uniform, was how much that actually does make a difference. Because as you go into either a job interview, if you're looking to get better, and get a better income or a higher role inside of a company, or maybe you are an entrepreneur minded, maybe you're looking to start up, or maybe get into one of these franchise opportunities based on our sponsor. Whatever your heart desires, if you're constantly making small habits in your daily life of just increasing knowledge, and increasing your knowledge input, eventually you're going to start being able to reflect on all that knowledge foundation and start seeing how it relates to what you value and believe in, and start taking actions and applying it. And then all of a sudden you start creating your own philosophy. So guys, I just want to thank you for being consistent in your life, coming in here, filling your knowledge bank, And my stand and my mission is to make sure that when you're in here and you're listening to this, that you are getting the golden grenades that are moving your life forward, plain and simple, period. So I'm excited to bring you this episode, Ambitious Vet. This was a secret file episode that I recorded 2 years ago. Where was I at 2 years ago? I was sleeping on a couch with a Marine Corps brother of mine after breaking up with the girl that I was dating for 2 years. That I gave her our place, I gave her pretty much all of our things, and at that point I was still living out of a suitcase, being a Moto Marine still. So we recorded this interview in a Starbucks, and I was sleeping on a buddy's couch, guys, and I couldn't tell you, this interview just brought so much rawness out of me. It brought rawness out of Travis. This interview is much needed, and I'm excited to bring this to you at this point. So if you didn't catch it at the beginning, Travis Collier is a 2-time author, one of Command Your Transition. He's also the author of Scale, which is a more mindset abundance book, which is a great read. I definitely recommend. I'll post both links in the show notes below. He's also an organizational performance consultant on the side of being now almost 18 years in a commissioned officer position of the Coast Guard. And don't forget the radio show host of Transition Tactics. So guys, I hope you enjoy this. There's a lot of key topics inside of here on how to find your battle rhythm in and out of the uniform. If some of you guys are still in, the difference between aspiration and ambition, and just getting real on what you actually have to do to create the ambition as you create momentum out of the uniform. That's a really good conversation. Ultimately, you're going to hear about 30 minutes into this interview, the climax of this interview, where we start diving into the trenches and bring to the surface the secret formula to success. And I'm excited for you guys to hear that. And if you guys have any feedback on this at all, always remember, you can always email me at choffman, that's 2 F's, 2 N's, at vettrainingcoaching.com. Would love it. But guys, without further ado, this isn't a perfect audio session. This is the first ever interview of the Ambitious Vet that I spent 2 hours today troubleshooting from SoundCloud, converting this so you guys could hear the first ever interview of the Ambitious Vet in a Starbucks when I was living on a couch to my name at that point, finding my next place to live. But more importantly, Travis brings the heat. Let's go ahead and dive into the trenches and have you hear the secret formula from Travis Collier.
Chris?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Okay, so are we recording right now?
We are recording right now.
Gotcha. Awesome. Great. All right. So let's just jump right into this baby then, man. So
Sure. Yeah, my fault. I don't know what's going on.
yeah, I know. I mean, I just started using Be Live like a month ago, and it's like still in its beta phase, and a lot of people are just kind of trying it out. And I got first exposed to it about a month and a half ago when I was at this Guerrilla Business School, where a lot of people are just like, man, Facebook Live is where, you know, a lot of marketing is going towards. The fastest way to get quick transactions and build a belly-to-belly relationship with your audience. So me being a vet, you know, I'm just like, okay, massive action. Let's just go right into it. I've been kind of learning the platform as I go. And so, you know, as much as you want to take fault, man, it's both of our faults, because I should have sent you an invite to let you know ahead of time, hey, this is still in its beta phase. I want to make sure that your side of things is taken care of. So I apologize.
No, you got nothing to apologize for. There's so much out there. I mean, you've got Crowdcast is the one I see that's big right now. Webinar Jam is going live. Video is the future. And Alexa's showing that audio is the future too.
Right. 100%, man. I just wrote down Crowdcast. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, Crowdcast. It's a good one. I'm trying to think who uses Crowdcast right now. I think it's Canadian. They've got an app platform too. They do live and pre-recorded. They're $18 a month. They're not too expensive. Webinar Jam's the big one for webinars. They've been playing a little late to the game. Their whole thing is they want to pull you to a lead page to go to their back end for a webinar. John Nemo, I don't know if you follow him on LinkedIn at all. His whole business platform. So he's got the best LinkedIn course that's out there. It's $2,000. He doubled it in the last 6 months. But his whole lead funnel, speaking of marketing, his whole funnel is he does a lot of mass LinkedIn messaging to get you to his lead gen, which is his book. And then he does pre-recorded webinars probably about 4 to 5 times a week. And from the pre-recorded webinar, he upsells you to his course on LinkedIn Riches. So, I mean, it's working. I'm trying to think what else is out there for video. Yeah, those are the two that I know.
Gotcha. I'm just taking notes. That's a good funnel right there. I like the upsell to the video to like his major high ticket item. That's brilliant. Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your 10-step series, I mean, you'd be doing the same thing. You would turn that into an ebook that you put in front of a lead gen page, and that'd be your funnel to high end coaching. I mean, it's the same funnel. It's the same way to do it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like figuring out what works too, and like where I'm at is building an audience. Like you got to build an audience to sell to. So it's
Correct.
like one thing that I've been clear that I'm missing over here on my end of things, just getting more belly to belly, building a relationship. So one thing is this weekly show. This other thing is I'm going to start doing live feeds just on daily life, just like showing them the branding of passion-driven life every single day, man. So they can see I'm living and breathing that. I'm not just posting shit, right?
Well, absolutely. And I think, Srini Rao, Unmistakable Creative, the way he has branded Unmistakable over the last, 5 years is pretty much the same way you can brand ambitious to our community. Because veterans are ambitious. It's just that our ambition gets disoriented when we choose something different than the normal career path. And this is a mix of interview, non-interview. But I mean, it's the idea of service. We all want to serve, but the uniform only gives us 20 to 40 years to serve. And really 20 to 25, really less than 20, because 1/6 of the military only makes it to 20 years to begin with. So if service has a limit based on our ability to occupy a role or an actual legal function, well, what is that service afterwards? And I wrote a post about this today, talking to Justin Pearson over at Victory Media. Everything in the military is geared for this pendulum between combat and comfort, right? And the second you say I'm getting out, it's like everything that else is out there doesn't help you. I mean, think about just going through medical for out processing for getting your DD-214. It's all on you to get your medical before you get out. Whereas the day you come to boot camp, they're putting shots in you, shaving you, testing you, and everything else to get you in the front door. And it's just weird that we have to, in that same environment, learn our military ambition. I mean, the Marine Corps has the joke about being a terminal lance. But we have to learn ambition in uniform, and we have to also learn ambition after the uniform. And what does that mean? Does that mean that you're a high-ticket $200,000 a year coach like you are? Does that mean that you're a 7-figure director-level executive at a Fortune 100 company? Does that mean that you run a massive nonprofit like Charity Water or Pencils of Promise? Does that mean that you're an artist like a Justin Sloan? I mean, what does that mean? And what is true? I mean, it's honest, and I use more profanity when I normally talk about it. But we don't know.
We got vets that are going to be listening to this. It doesn't matter, man. You're speaking their language.
Well, we just don't fucking know. Like, we don't know. No one's going to tell us. And there is a peer group. There is a support group. No one talks about this. No one wants to talk about it. I don't want to fault the military. I gave a tour. So the Coast Guard's really small. One data point, I'll shut up. The Coast Guard's very small. There's only 43 flag officers in the entire Coast Guard. That's it. There's not a lot. I was giving one a tour of what I do in my day job earlier this week. And, he was talking. He's like, I've been in 36 years. This is how I serve. I don't know how to connect that with people who are choosing to get out at 8 to 10. And that's a powerful statement. Like, I've never heard a flag officer say it that honestly, one, and two, understand, articulate the problem in a way that they are not the only answer. But if you get the answer, what do you do with it? What does the military do when, in the blended retirement system, and I truly believe this, more people opt to get out than stay in? Well, what happens then? I mean, we're already the smallest section of the population ever. There's a growing segment of the population that's disqualified from service to begin with, whether it's credit, whether it's physical fitness, whether it's general identity, whether it's social media. What happens? What becomes of the military? That's an honest question. That's not the fault of the military. The military is good at what it does. It generates leaders to thrive in combat environments. But that's not everyone.
Yep, 100%. I 100% agree with that, especially even over on my end of things, serving in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I mean, the biggest thing I saw was that they were putting us in the most stressful situations as possible and then training us on how to adapt to that as we were in those situations. So I could definitely see that. But I mean, you said something really, really awesome in what you're just sharing around how do we find that ambition? How do we find that intrinsic motivation to like pull ourselves forward? And man, I got to say, man, I read about 45 pages of this new book that you just published called Command Your Transition, which, man, good job on that, brother. It's really good. And I love how step by step and how simplistic you make it for like a Marine like myself to understand it. And I want to kind of like, shed light on the your sight sets the limits, man. I made a note of that in your book, and that really resonated with me. And like, speaking of ambition and being an ambitious vet, I think without, I'm a biblical man myself, without vision, we perish, right? So sight sets the limits on your life. Can you tell me more about that concept that you wrote in your book?
So I wrote that concept about sight setting the limit based on a quote that I use all the time. And it's a shocking quote because it challenges the norm of the equality of start. So the quote is simple: a captain, not a general, nor a king. The quote comes from the writer Sebastian Marshall, great writer. His books are deep. He's written, I think, 5 so far. And his idea is that in a lifetime, you have an arc, right? And, we'll use religion as your metaphor. There's only one major Messiah in the major war religions. There's only one. There's never a second. You can get to the scripture about will there be a second, how that second comes forward. But if you think about it, there's only one person who has one arc in a life that makes them king of kings, right? Mm-hmm. Bring that back to a normal life. I say normal life, but bring that back to today. Sebastian talks about this idea of highbrow, lowbrow aspiration.
Right.
In that, there's a book, here's a book, Hostage to Fortune, The Letters of Joseph P. Kennedy. So the Kennedy patriarch, one of his grandchildren, wrote or published a book of his letters to his family. And you read these letters, you read the Kennedy elder talking to Roosevelt like they're best of friends. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. You read him talking about World War II from a statesman, leader of men's standpoint. And you realize that his children were meant for greatness because he had already become a captain in his own right. So his children become generals and kings in a metaphorical sense. In the military, if you think about the officers who push for 0506 versus the officers who make 07, there's a shift that happens. And I don't know if it happens because of who they know, who they're connected with, what they've learned, what assignments they get. But there's a change that happens from that career 06 to that career 07, 08. And that change is fundamental to pushing the services in the right directions in the future. So when sight sets the limits, it's this idea of what do you see that's possible in front of you? And unfortunately, there are some, I hate to say, low-born behaviors or low-born mindset. If you get a credit card, you graduate college with $20,000 of credit card debt, you've hamstringed yourself. And unfortunately, student loan debt is a low-born behavior that's handicapping a lot of America today. Versus the kid who's able to take the gap year to go to Europe or the gap year to go backpacking somewhere, who gets seed fund money from his parents to start one or two of his enterprises, who gets that time to actually practice, experiment, and repeat the things he wants to do to become better in his life than his parents were, even though they were already good to begin with. So sight is powerful in that you've got to see what's possible. You've got to see where you can end up. In the military, we know what's possible and where you can end up. You know how many E7s there are in your MOS. You know how many officer accession programs are out there and how many they take a year. It's very regimented. It's very structured. But then the day becomes when you put up your crows, you put up your chevrons. And although anything is possible, is anything truly possible? What does that mean? I look at it from a money standpoint, because that's easy to talk about. You could also look at it from an identity standpoint. You can look at it from an education standpoint. I talk about Bill Clinton in the book. You know, Bill Clinton, former President Bill Clinton, knew at 15 years old he wanted to be president of the United States, and he put his life in order. You know, he ordered his steps to make the presidency possible and be one of the youngest presidents in American history. If you want to be a politician and a statesman in America today, you've got to start young. You've got to start early, and you've got to make certain specific choices now to get you ready for later. I mean, it's the same in the military too, right? We've seen dynasties and legacies of families in the military based on their choice to make in the military their calling. You know, I think about former generals Krulak the Elder and Krulak the Younger. I mean, I can't imagine having a father who told President Johnson not to continue in Vietnam and put his career on the line for it. I mean, I can't imagine the stories in that household. I can't imagine the lessons that were learned and transmitted. I mean, there's no doubt that General Krulak, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, had a leg up on everyone else in his peer group because of who his father was. And we can't deny that. So it's a lot of rambling to say sight sets the limit because you have to choose the level of aspiration. You talk about ambition, I talk about aspiration. They're the same thing. You have to choose level of aspiration, and you have to accept what your aspiration forces you and allows you to become. You got to accept what you can't do. And that's huge. And a lot of people don't weigh the price of aspiration. And a lot of people don't realize that in one lifetime, you may not get a chance to be the king. I mean, think about every director level executive in Kodak or in Polaroid. Like that was their shot. Or every director level executive in Blockbuster and Netflix comes along. That was their shot. So some of it's environmental. Some of it is motivation, incentive. Some of it's assignment and selection. Very little of it's skill and knowledge.
Yeah. Well, you got to either evolve or become Blockbuster.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Blockbuster went out because of Netflix coming up and kind of transforming how we actually view video and how in the convenience of being able to not have to leave your home to actually view your favorite movies and, you know, all that good stuff online. So yeah, that's what I really take away from what you said is you got to evolve, but you also got to, you know, kind of what I touch base on too is listen to the feedback loop of what your input output is into your life. Because whenever I got out 5 years ago, I had 5 different careers in the first 3 years I was out of the Marine Corps. Anywhere from, you know, nightclub security all the way to, you know, I think I was doing sales at a large commercial gym, all just trying to figure out where I could create some kind of traction and rhythm in my life. And it wasn't until I tried these multiple things that I started hearing feedback of like, oh, Chris, you know, you'd be good at this. You're very intuitive. You're very good at reading people. You're very good at kind of pulling and motivating people. And then you start setting back, doing some reflection, journaling, and trying to see what actually kind of creates some momentum in your life. Kind of move forward as such. And I think that's been like the largest benefit that I've kind of taken away from my first 5 years of being out of the uniform is not being afraid to take risks and not being afraid to fall, because I think us as vets, we have like a big advantage from like being able to be guys that can like adapt and overcome with pretty much any circumstance that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've lived in, in my case, I've lived in, foxholes and, was out in Afghanistan living in tents and stuff like that on deployment. So, I mean, living in my car isn't much if I have to do it for a couple months to, get aligned to what I'm committed to creating in my near future. So that's good stuff, man.
Mm-hmm. And I like how you talk about 5 jobs in 5 years. You've got to be in a position where you can do that and not get ground down by doing that. It's triangulation. It's taking a fix. It's knowing what you do and don't like. That's a huge thing. I mean, how did you choose your 5 jobs in 5 years?
That's a great question. I think back then I was more reactive to my life, more just let opportunity come my way and kind of just tried it out, man. Because back then I was going to school for like athletic training. I was big into fitness and all that. And as I dug into human development, started studying myself inside and out, I started discovering, oh, wow, I have core values that drive my daily behavior, right? There's a bigger context to this whole life versus reacting to just trying to pay the bills or making sure that I can afford to go to the bar and have a couple of beers with my brothers, over the weekend. So once I started getting aligned and clear on who I was as a human being, I started, being able to align my daily behaviors, my actions, my calendar, all that other structural stuff around my core values. And then once I started doing that, I started actually starting to feel that fulfillment in my heart, hence the passion-driven life, So, man, I mean, it's, over here on my end of things, I preach a lot about being resourceful versus taking advantage of all the resources that are out there, because there's all kinds of resources out there, but unless you declare yourself as being resourceful, you're never going to be able to go out and take advantage of those resources, because you just don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Did you ever?
Go ahead.
One more. Did you ever feel overwhelmed in those years?
I mean, it was more so of I guess I'll put it like this. I was looking for the secret formula. I was wondering why, other people were succeeding, and I became a master, just studier of human behavior and performance, and wanted to understand how guys and gals were actually out there thriving and succeeding. And what I found, with all of that is kind of what you've been touching on, is you got to find a baseline of clarity of who you are. It's nothing exterior. It's about discovering, what drives your daily behaviors. Like you talk about in your book, declaring your intent, ambition, making it out of the, making it outside. It's it starts within and everything manifests outside. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say overwhelmed, just more so just seeking the secret formula. And there really was one. The secret formula was self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. That's huge, isn't it? The secret formula is self-awareness.
That is big. So, yeah, brother, I mean, you have a company called Battle Rhythm, correct?
Yeah, Battle and Rhythm.
Battle and Rhythm. There we go. So I want to kind of get your thoughts around, a lot of veterans complain about lack of structure getting out. Routine and having the lack of accountability that we had when we were in the uniform, right? I mean, you being an active officer in the Coast Guard right now, you still have that accountability around you a little bit, right? You got to get your shit done.
Yep.
It's very structured, stuff like that. I mean, what advice would you give these guys that are getting out and trying to find traction and rhythm outside of the uniform?
Keep as much of the daily routine as you had in the uniform. If that means getting up at 5 a.m. and PTing yourself, I say still do that kind of stuff. One thing I've learned, it's weird how American culture treats weekends different than weekdays. And to the point where we've created the phenomenon called social jet lag. The idea that you wake up at 9 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday, well, Monday morning you want to wake up at 5. Well, you just shifted your body rhythm 4 hours. So it's the equivalent of flying across country just to get up and running. How does that propagate to how we culturally feel about Monday? I think you find the pieces of the routine that still keep you grounded in who you were. And I think maybe it is waking up at 5 a.m. or whatever your standard is. I think it is experimenting to see what your natural circadian rhythm is for sleep and wakefulness and living as close to that as possible. I think it's practice. I more definitely think now, I believe it's finding a peer group of people who have either transitioned recently or about to transition with you, getting yourselves on a group chat and just talking out your issues. We don't have that. And there's a couple of great books about it. Sebastian Junger talks about this in his book Tribe. The idea that in some Indian cultures, when the Braves would go to war and come back, part of their reintegration ritual was to talk about their experience of going into combat. And once they were done talking about it and went through other parts of their purification, they were done, they were reintegrated, and they moved on. We don't have that when it comes to transitioning out of the military. We have a lot of support for post-traumatic stress. We have a lot of support for mental health. And there's some great transition experts like Dwayne France who are helping with this. The idea that it's not just about mental health. It's about life. It's about how do you live without the biggest anchor in your life anchoring you in your life, which goes back to your question. The clock's the easiest way to do it. The clock, if you were used to getting up at 5 and going to bed at 2200, stay getting up at 5, go to bed at 2200, do it every day. Make your weekdays your weekends. Find people who are going through it with you, who have just gone through it with you, and don't break the chain. And I didn't realize it before, but I realize it now more than ever. Even though I'm starting 5 years early from my own transition, if I break the chain, I know there'll be parts of my transition that'll fail. And I have to be that example now, both at work and off duty. And I want to show that example when I retire in 2021. There is so much we lose. Don't lose everything. Yeah, it's powerful. I think routine, as much as you can keep to a routine, make the routine your own. Own your routine. Own the parts of the routine you can own. If it's not PT, if it's what you ate and when you ate, maybe it's the galley, maybe it's the kitchen. If you didn't watch a lot of TV when you're in the uniform, don't go buy 3 televisions, even though it's tempting. Don't replace routine with ruts and structures that don't support you.
There's a lot there, man. There's a lot there with what you just said. That's really good wisdom. And I think the biggest thing that, I loved everything around what you just said, but I really like the part of the support system. Even doing my market research with getting vet training and coaching up and running, the biggest pain point that I saw that a lot of veterans were getting out was a lack of support systems there that were out there for them. So finding that group that you resonate with, and there's so many out there. Triple B's, Vet TV just has launched their veteran TV series. There's all kinds of Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups out there for support, stuff like that. And maybe even just creating your own, being resourceful, kind of going back to being resourceful, creating your own meetup veteran group where you go on a weekly hike or something like that, right? But yeah, I think that's really big, man. And thanks for that wisdom, brother. So, yeah, man, I want to kind of get to the last question here, man. Kind of go ahead and start wrapping this baby up. Is if you could go back, man, when you were 6 months from, actually guys that are 6 months from getting out of the uniform, right? It's things that you would tell them that they need to execute on, okay, before they get out of the uniform.
6 months. So I use two transition ratios. They create the left limit and right limit. One ratio is for every year that you've been in, expect 1 month to just transition, just culturally, mentally, spiritually transition. And then on the other side, I say for every $10,000 you want to make, expect there to be 1 month of job searching. I took that from my transition instructor when I went through TAPS back in 2012, and it really makes a lot of sense. So those two numbers create a left limit, right limit. So if someone's got 6 months left, I try to figure out, do they want to make more than $60,000 a year, and have they been in more than 6 years? Because if it's no to either one of those, then 6 months has already put them in extremis. And that's hard to say, but it's true. But if we're at the 6 month mark, it's about employment, education, and experience. And how do you want to do those 3 lines of effort? And I'm wrong. There's 4 lines of effort: employment, education, experience, and estate. Estate as in family, decadent affairs, or descendant affairs, the people you want to be with, the people you want to love. I call that all your estate, right? And financial management a little bit. There's a concurrent lines of effort. So if you got 6 months before you end active service, you need to be clear now about what those things mean to you. Education. Do you expect to go back to get a bachelor's degree or master's degree? If not, then don't worry about it. Does education include professional certifications? Employment. Do you want to be an employee or an entrepreneur? Well, if you want to be an entrepreneur, like you talked about before, Chris, do you know your market? Do you know their pain? Do you know how you solve for that pain? How much of that can you do while you're still in uniform? If we're 6 months out, experience, ideally by the 6 month point, you have accumulated enough leave. You already know your terminal leave schedule. Ideally, when you start your last year of service, you've got your 60 days already in the books, plus whatever else your service defines for house hunting, terminal processing, or any other special leaves or absences allowed. So you should know that in 6 months, half that time should be in some sort of stand down status. No one should ever sell their leave back. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of opportunity. Burn all your leave before you transition. And then estate. Hopefully at the 6 month mark, if you have a family, you've talked about where you want to go, where you want to be, where do they want to be, what do you want to experience together. You starting to make that happen, whether it's starting to look for houses in the city you're going to move to, whether it's moving your family ahead of you moving. That way it makes it easier for you to end your service and transition when your day comes. But start asking the estate questions now, ideally earlier. Ideally at every PCS, ask the estate question. That way you're ready for it when the time comes, that it doesn't shock you when you wake up and the movers are there. So if we're at 6 months, those are probably the 4 categories we would hone in on very fast. Clarity early prevents confusion later.
That's good. That's awesome, brother. Yeah. So I mean, where do veterans go and find you right now, man? How can we learn more about you and kind of find what you're up to with helping veterans transition, brother?
LinkedIn's where I'm at. I am Travis Scott Collier on LinkedIn. I am very active in a lot of the LinkedIn groups, Veterans Mentor Network, Project Transition USA, MOA, and several others. LinkedIn's where I'm at. When I published my book in 2016, I thought Facebook was where the conversation was happening. But my tactic on Facebook was wrong. I was just trying to go for people in the cold, and that's the wrong way to do it. I talk to veterans who are focused on the job search. And from the job search, we get to the deeper questions about the identity search. Who are you after you transition? Who are you without the uniform? And those are where, and it's true, it's where the hard questions have to be answered. So LinkedIn's where you find me. My podcast is supposed to publish this weekend, but my transcripts aren't coming in yet. So in the next week, my Transition Tactics podcast will be out there on iTunes. We've talked a lot about stuff in groups. I very explicitly break down tactics because I think the small pieces lead to the big wins. And I don't hear a lot of other podcasts doing that. I'm not downing any other podcasts. There's some amazing podcasts out there. There's amazing video and audio out there. I just want veterans to get tools that they can use immediately. And that's what I'm going for next. My first live event is in November. Fingers crossed.
Nice.
And that's about it.
Come on, brother. Travis, man, thanks for really making some time to come and chat with me today, brother. And you are undoubtedly an ambitious vet, man. And just thank you for everything that you're doing, and thanks for sharing your secrets to helping veterans be high performers, live that meaningful life, and ultimately live that passion-driven life out of the uniform. Thanks for joining us, man.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you for the opportunity.
Got it.
And that's it.
Boom. All right. Well, I don't know how this ringer thing works, brother. So I think I'm over there on your end.
So whenever we close out, leave the app open. The app takes a little bit of time to upload both sides of the call, and then it'll give you a download link for lo-fi, hi-fi that you can use to edit appropriately.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's over here on my end. I'm seeing something's not right. Please restart ringer.
Oh, no. Uh-oh.
So, because I think I joined your conversation end over there on your end, didn't I?
I thought I joined yours. I'll leave mine open and see what happens.
All right. Well, if anything, if it doesn't, for whatever reason, happen, we can definitely try this in again another time, man. We will. Try to make sure we plan this ahead of time, man. But, hey, brother, it was great to actually connect with you person to person, man, and actually get to pick your brain, man, because you are the real deal, man. There's a lot of guys out there that are preaching a lot of stuff, but they're not out there really doing the grunt work. And I just want to acknowledge you, man, for what you're doing for vets. It's big.
Chris, I appreciate it. It's time. It's time for us to be honest with ourselves. And unfortunately, someone actually going through the transition, as painful as it is, may not know enough to be honest with themselves. And that's the point, is to expose clarity, to expose honesty.
Yeah. Clarity is a big one, man. A lot of guys get out and they don't have it. That's why they fall back on the GI Bill. That's what I find anyways. And then they kind of coast for 3 or 4 years and find themselves, just kind of like going through the motions while they're out. Yeah, man, it's just, there's something missing, just kind of like you were saying. You want to get help, vets get strategies that they can get results quick. I want to speak to the ambitious veterans, man, that are like, want to become top performers and just want to be around a community like that. And that's kind of the culture I'm looking to create here.
So when's your next live event?
Yeah. So I'm scheduling my first live event. It's going to be probably either in late August or mid-September, only because I'm a trainer for a personal development company called Landmark Worldwide, where I lead seminars. I lead seminars for them, and I just started a quarterly introduction to the Landmark Forum.
No way.
There. Yes.
I have.
You ever heard of Landmark? Oh my gosh, it's some powerful work, brother.
I got to put you in my friend Johnny again. So Johnny Mullins is in Virginia Beach. He's a coastie, and he's trying to do the same thing with John Maxwell. So I know there's proprietary issues, but he's been having an uphill struggle trying to convince Maxwell Corporate to go veteran specific.
Well, that'd be huge, man, because Maxwell is known for leadership and having specific strategies to help military guys that are getting out would just unleash it, man. Because what I see military guys getting out and running like Fortune 500 companies with their leadership style. It's just being able to, I got a degree in psychology. The biggest thing I didn't like about studying psychology was that all the diagnoses that they apply to veterans, it's like, okay, I'm broken, so I'm going to go live on my disability for the rest of my life. And
I just read that. Where was it? Have you read The Return by David Danello? Read it.
No.
That's exactly where I saw that at, because he says the same thing. It's in some of the quote. I mean, if you read my post and linked it today, the next quote from him: "We're not broken, and even if people are having traumatic experiences after combat or after being in that environment. They're not broken. They just need support. There's two different mindsets. And disability payments are a quick way to be on the street. And a lot of civilians don't get that. It's fucking frustrating. It's not a medical problem. Yeah. It's somewhat a spiritual problem. It's a cultural problem. Don't get me started. I fully agree with you.
No, man. I feel it. I feel it over here. I feel your passion for it. But yeah, man. So that's what I'm doing over here with the landmark thing. But to answer your question, my first live event is going to be called "What's Next," and I'm gonna do the first one. What's the laughing about? Yeah, what's next, right? And I'm gonna do it's gonna be like a 90-minute workshop, and I'm just gonna be talking a little bit about my branding around helping them. Kind of my whole take on the whole thing is they got to learn how to be resourceful before they can take advantage of resources. And kind of like that's what I love about what you're doing is you're kind of being like you got to start with you first. So kind of like in my coaching, one of my coaching programs that I designed was the Warrior to Passion Driven 12-week program, where we're helping them discover their core values, their personality style, what their strengths and weaknesses off of that are, and then we create routines, rituals, and habits around those core values so they can live that fulfilled life. And then I'm working on studying everything about LinkedIn so we can actually brand these guys on LinkedIn in a way that, has them, be strategic, but also be well networked for the industry that they're looking to get into. Because there's so many strategic ways you can take advantage of LinkedIn. Yep. It's not even funny.
Agreed. And a lot of. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's looking at But I was just going to say that after my first live event, because I want to, I'm just going to say it straight up. I'm from the Midwest, straight up, man. I'm from St. Louis. I don't use $10 words. I'm very simple and straight to the point. I mean, I want to use the first event and do it by myself so I can fuck it all up. So then when I do the second and third one, I can start inviting heavy hitters like yourself. And, I got a few other guys. And that reminds me, I need to connect you with Phil Randazzo. Have you ever heard of a company?
So Phil and I have talked before, actually. We talked about a year ago. So my publisher and his publisher are the same publisher. I was supposed to do an event with him.
Okay,
just timing never worked out. I love what American Dream U does. I love how Phil gets in the A-listers to the room for 2 days at big bases. I mean, we need more of that.
Right. Course, man. Yeah, I didn't know. That's cool that you guys are connected, but I was like getting him and even getting into some of his live events because I know that he already has a big audience and he's able to get on bases and actually create that space for you to talk to the target market that we're trying to get into, right? So, yeah, man. So after September, maybe first quarter of 2018, I'm looking to maybe even create a 2-day conference or something like that with some heavy hitters like yourself.
Well, check out from a fitness perspective, check out Nicholas Bailey, $1 billion body or $1 million body. His first live event is in San Diego this summer. It's actually soon, I think. Let me look it up. And it's relatively cheap. And nothing wrong with being from St. Louis. I think. No, don't shortchange yourself appropriately like that. There's no competition because our people will take the advice that most resonates with them and they'll use it. So if it is, the Midwestern Army Loggy who's been stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, good to go. If it's all the Lance Corporals at Camp Lejeune, so be it. There's too many people out there for us not to fail. And it's, imagine if transition didn't exist. What would happen then?
Well, isn't that going back to, how, when you say that, I think about language and how it was created. What is transition, right? So, yeah, man. It's going to be an exciting journey. I mean, for me personally, I mean, the biggest breakthrough I've had in the past couple months with just around what I'm doing is just really being able to put myself out there in a way that I'm not afraid to fail and put myself out there vulnerably, face to face, doing more belly to belly work, which doing interviews on podcasts, doing video work, stuff like that, where I'm not I think a lot of us are afraid to look like a fraud, like we don't know everything. But I mean, it's like you said that, you're very analytical. Like, the ins and outs of the. Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
Hello?
I'm sorry. I can hear you now. You said you were afraid to look like what? I can hear you. I got you.
Can you hear me? Gotcha. No, I was just like, I guess at the end of the day, I was afraid to look like a fraud, like a fraud, like have people find out that I don't know everything, right? And you don't have to know everything. As I've been going to a lot of these training seminars and stuff like that, a lot of these people are just like, it's very easy to just give up thinking you know everything, because it allows you just to be with your audience and also throw it back on them. Like, hey, like, look, what do you think about this? And that gives you time to kind of think. And what I found just like chatting with you in this is like you're very good at just sharing like commandeering like stories. Like, you're very good, easy to connect with, and you're really good at sharing stories and breaking things down in analogies so I can feel like people can picture it in their head. So it's like stuff like the small things like that in communication that can have these veterans kind of be like, okay, wow, like this guy knows what he's talking about. So it's a journey. It's an adventure, brother.
It is. And I feel the same way about the fraud perspective. I feel the exact same way.
Right, but that's also just a thought that kind of goes through our heads, right? It's the limited beliefs that keep people ordinary, not extraordinary. Because we both know that what we're here to do is help that that transitioning veteran succeed in their next endeavors, because it fulfills our hearts. Right? When we do it, it fulfills us, and it's just like it's being able to let that thought go, and be like, okay, now let's just go out and take action, because you're gonna have haters. Always going to have haters that are going to sit there and say things, but at the end of the day, they're hating because you're doing something and they're not.
You're right.
So it's about that next step and kind of things just kind of unraveling as you go, and I think that's huge, man.
It will be. I've talked about it off and on, but when I wrote my first book, first book just to get to write a book. But now I've got a purpose, I've got a reason, I've got a model, I've got a space already. I've posted the room all over my apartment that I'll be going to. It's time. It really is time.
Well, there you have it, Ambitious Vet. Episode number 58 of the Ambitious Vet Show with Travis Collier. I hope you really enjoyed that secret filed. Well, not really secret filed. It was on SoundCloud for the past 2 years, but we've never really pushed it out to these major mediums. I hope you enjoyed that conversation, and I hope it inspires any of you ambitious vets out there that are looking to start a podcast or a win-win to create potential strategic partnerships or whatever with people that you look up to, just to learn from them. That's kind of where I started. I started in Starbucks. Like you could tell, I wasn't the best interviewer, wasn't the best talker, was super socially awkward, all of the above, right? But I started learning from people I looked up to, and eventually I got a little bit better, right? So I hope that inspires you. Again, today's show was brought to you by Veteran Franchise Group. They're offering actually a free franchise business education workshop here in San Diego, August 17, 2019. Allow Veteran Franchise Group to narrow your education gap and finding your tailored franchise business opportunities. Go to veteranfranchisegroup.com to get your franchise business journey going. If you haven't already, Ambitious Vet, subscribe, rate, review the podcast. Feedback is what allows anything to improve in life. We want to improve in the trenches right beside you. Sound good? So let's meet in the middle and let's get better together. Lastly, Ambitious Vet, we already know if you're listening to this, you're warrior made. to become passion driven, utilize this one golden grenade you just heard inside of this conversation. I promise you, your life is going to look totally different in the next few years. Guys, let's go get it.